So the most recent patch nerfed 10 different weapons, and TrueGame Data already updated his site to reflect this information. So when you go in here, you can kind of see what it was before and after. But so you can kind of see it side by side visually this way. You can kind of see what changed. We had the Interceptor, which was hard 100% meta before this update. You can see they nerfed it so that it no longer is a 2-shot to kill. It is a minimum 3-shot and up to 4-shot. In the big scheme of things, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but essentially took its TTK from 280 up to 560, essentially doubles the TTK. So at the closer ranges, you can still get a 3-shot to kill with 1 headshot and 2 body shots. But if they get too far, then it's going to be 1 headshot and 3 body shots. So making that a total of 4 shots to kill, which is 841, which isn't all that crazy of a TTK, heavily reliant on hitting a headshot, maybe even more than 1, and within the first damage profile, which you can see here, is 50 meters. We can see that the DG56, this is a burst weapon, primarily changed up close. They thought it killed too quick. This removes the 2 burst potential that it kind of had before with the 6 shots to kill up here. And this has kind of been phased out of the meta. FR556 wasn't all that great. It was kind of beat out by the DG56. So they kind of went preemptive and entirely nerfed it. So we're not going to have that burst meta anymore. Those both kind of got nerfed into the ground. Baz B, we kind of have a huge shift. You can see it essentially changed all the different damage profiles and really affected this where it's going to be 1 more shot to kill in general, which isn't a huge deal, but it kind of brings in a line where maybe if it was hard meta and you would never use anything else, well, now you have an option to use multiple different weapons. The DM56 really didn't get used, but they went ahead and nerfed that. I guess that was next in line if the other one wasn't broken. You can see it had a 699 TTK, which is pretty fast. Now it's down to 839. Again, not that special. You're probably better off with the full auto weapon. Fennec got kind of probably the hardest nerf. Went from 550 TTK down to 660. And because of that, it's not really in the huge meta conversation. There's probably about 5 SMGs, which we talked about yesterday, that are slightly ahead of it. They already nerfed the snake shot, so those are kind of out of the equation, but the Fennec got pushed out pretty quickly. I guess they don't want a lot of people using MWIII weapons, especially the way when we look at everything balanced out. And just speaking of TTK, big picture, you can kind of see the spreadsheet that I put together using all of that data. This is available in the description, so you can just click that link and then you'll go ahead and have that. You can bookmark it and it updates in real time. As I change it on my spreadsheet, you see it on yours. That's kind of how that part works. And I give a little bit of side descriptions on different things, and this will try to stay up to date with all the various changes that happen. So you kind of have an idea, what does JGOD think of the M13B? You kind of have an idea. It's just there. And if there's any sleepers, you're like, oh, I wonder what the heck happened to this gun. You know, it is what it is. And for anyone wondering where the MCW is, it's probably one of the worst guns in the game for long range. You kind of see where it sits there. I kind of kept the list this way to the top 100 because you go beyond that, it's kind of excessive. So we're going to start off with the weapon that a lot of people are liking right now, and that is the TAC Eradicator. TAC LMG. We have like 14 different TACs in the game. You can kind of see how the build's out. I've kind of changed a couple things because after some more playtime, you kind of figure out what works better. This one, I do like the aim up over the 2.5x, which we're going to use on a lot of different weapons. It's just some of the guns have this weird canted angle thing that I'm not really a fan of. The Corial Eagle Eye could be a good alternative, or whatever long range optic you're preferring at the moment, depending on your FOV, that might change as well. So with this one, the first 7 bullets come out faster. So its theoretical TTK is based on hitting those shots 100%. If you do not get the first 7 bullets to land, the TTK is relatively mediocre. So we'll go ahead and kind of get that. Boom. It has a little bit of a cooldown, resets. You get a fast couple bullets there. It's not like release, fire, release, fire. That won't necessarily work. You just want to hit the shots, get the kill done with as fast as possible, and then let go and move on to the next target and pull the trigger again to take advantage of that slightly faster TTK. This is something we experience with the AN94, also the SVA. Those hyper bursts, if it doesn't hit, you get kind of a terrible TTK. This one's up there as terms of easy to use, but it's nothing special in terms of TTK. Then we got the MTZ-762. Biggest problem I have with this gun is it only has a 30 round mag. I'm more of a fan of a higher recoil guns that reward you for hitting your shots. This is definitely one of those guns, and it can be made to have very little recoil. But in general, the 30 round mag is more of a deal breaker. So I think this one's better for probably solos or duos. If you kind of want to mix it up and are tired of using the quote unquote hard meta weapons, you do get a little bit more variety in this. And this is what you can go ahead and use. Again, it's going to have a little bit more recoil, But in general, the biggest issue will be for you to have that 30 round mag. If you can deal with that, more power to you. Sleight of hand, might be able to, the fast hands or whatever on top of that to be able to go. This is the only MW2 gun that's going to make it into the list. Suppressed M13B. Because we do have slightly different suppressors in this game, I actually like the build a little bit more than I do for the M13. I've never been a fan of the M13. I wish I had like 75 bullets. I know that probably wouldn't work, but the damage per mag is typically low. But this one's a pretty good versatile gun. You can have a lot of fun with it, especially if you don't have a lot of MW3 guns leveled and you're like, what the hell am I going to use? M13B is still pretty good. You're able to get decent bullet velocity out of this build, and you kind of see how that builds out there. The Bruen. Biggest problem with the Bruen is it's kind of like you wish you had 6 attachments. That's really the biggest problem, because if you go with this, you can save an attachment on the mag. You build it out this way. You're not going to have a ton of recoil. This could be one that you swap to the aim op, which I'll probably do for the demonstration purposes. You're going to be able to build it out this way, but it will be slower. You're going to see it aim down sight, a little bit slower, not ridiculous. Probably not going to use this on Bondo. Maybe you go with the 16 round mag, but this also, adding the 16 round mag adds an open bolt delay. And this basically is, it adds a delay every time you pull the trigger. So when I pull the trigger, there's like a little bit of time that happens before the first bullet actually comes out. With this, it says it's 33 milliseconds. If you go ahead and put on the 60 round mag, it adds an extra frame to that at 60 FPS, which will give you 50 milliseconds, which will be a little bit slower. Not as big a deal on LMGs at long range, but in general, it's kind of one of those things you do not want for close range. So kind of just take it and you'll notice it. Then we get some other standouts here. Before we had the hard meta of the BAS-B, that's kind of fallen down a slight notch. It's still very good. If you manage to get one leg shot in the mix, it will raise the TTK. You need to not hit any leg shots, and the TTK becomes kind of average or even bad, depending on how you're missing the shots. So do not hit the legs. You definitely need to hit body shots. And then we got the Holger, which is kind of a little mix there, low recoil, saves an attachment, like the Bruen if you had without doing the 60 round, but it has a 60 round, so it's a little bit more mobile, a little bit better aim down sight, and you can kind of see how it's built out. We had to go on no recoil setup, and we built all of these with the suppressor. If you don't want a suppressor, you can take it off and put on another attachment, but this thing does fry pretty good. You can kind of see it's not really moving too much. Again, this optic or the aim up are probably going to be the ways to go. This has a pretty solid TTK, and it only has that 60 round mag and a decent reload speed that you can speed up with the fast hand. Again, like I said, BAS-B is very solid still. I've gone with the aim up because I don't like as much visual shake, and then you kind of see that. Now the 45 mag comes a little bit into question. I know guns like this have been the meta with 45 bullets, whether it was the AMAX back in Warzone, but back then we didn't have as much health. So the TTKs went a little bit further when you had a 45 round mag. So this is kind of the build. It is a low recoil build, and you'll hit your shots. It'll feel good, but 45 bullets can feel like it runs out pretty quickly as you hit multiple targets. So again, they kind of raised it that one shot, which doesn't always sound as much on paper, but if you're 30% accurate, that means you're adding 3 extra shots. You know, it kind of adds up, but overall, still a very solid weapon. That's kind of the case where they didn't nerf it into the ground. And that brings us to the MTZ DMR 3-4. And this is something we already talked about, the 3 to 4 shots to kill. It can actually be pretty bad at times if you're missing those shots, especially since the mag size isn't particularly large. 20 bullets gets ate up pretty quick, and this is kind of how you would build it out. Again, I have a suppressor in all the builds. If you want to put a different muzzle for lower recoil, go for it. This one, you can pretty much spam it as fast as you want, and as you can see, it does not move too much. I'm just spamming it, and there you kind of go. You can track the targets. Bullet velocity is pretty good, and it's still pretty broken. I just think it's a little bit higher of a skill gap where it's slightly harder to use. I don't think they'll nerf the damage on it again. I think they'll probably add a hair more recoil, and that will be enough to basically put into the dirt. We're just not there yet. A lot of times with these guns, they're either overpowered, broken, or they're useless. And I think most people would generally prefer a gun that's broken to just be useless, and then we get more access to about 7 other weapons. Then, like I mentioned in my first top 10 loadout video type video, we covered the Pulemyot. And this one is with the Jack Annihilator Bullpup. This thing is what really separates it. It allows it to just be dominant. You can kind of see I've modified some of the attachments around. So something to keep in mind is I'm pretty sure if you unequip this, you cannot use that stock. It won't be visible. So you have to equip the conversion kit before you equip the stock, so you can go ahead and have that on there. So that's something to keep in mind, because a lot of people were asked that in the last video, and you'll see this one. You can go with the choreo or the aim op. I'm gonna go ahead and swap this one again to the aim op. Here we go in the firing range. Boom. Again, it's a slow LMG. The fire rate isn't insane, but you don't need, if you miss shots, you just get back on target and take them out, and we can take out a lot of people with the 100 bullets. Appreciate the support. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.